Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here at the Canceled Priests Coalition Conference in Rosemont, Chicago area. And we've just been informed that it's been confirmed that this evening there will be, I believe it's 2 bishops, visiting Bishop Strickland in Tyler, Texas, for what is an apostolic visitation. In layman terms, this is like when the IRS comes and does an audit or something like that. And of course, this is in the wake of Bishop Strickland's participation in the rally down in Los Angeles, where he was defending Catholic Orthodoxy against the sacrilege, blasphemy, and hateful conduct of the sisters, so-called, of the perpetual indulgence at Los Angeles Dodgers Stadium. A couple weeks ago, about a week ago, I wrote an article called God Bless Bishop Strickland for Crisis Magazine. And I told a story in there about how a good friend of mine moved down to Tyler, Texas, and Bishop Strickland had the paternal care and love for souls to actually go to this man's house and visit with him and his children, and even he took a picture of him basically playing dolls with the little girls, just sort of being very childlike in the best way with the little children, as Jesus would want his shepherds to do. And I wrote at the end of the piece, no matter, the things that Bishop Strickland does, this rally in Chicago or LA, his public presence, his calls for orthodoxy, all of those things are very important. But what is most astonishing about him, in my opinion, from my, my friends' experiences and things like that with him, is, aside from all of that, he really is a true spiritual father, and that is something that is missing in the Catholic episcopacy today. There are definitely some bishops who sometimes, there's a very few, who might make some statements. They might say a strong thing about a pro-life issue or whatever, but it's very rare that a bishop will actually have an intimate, fatherly, filial relationship with his spiritual children. And this is what bishops are called to do. When a man becomes a bishop, he doesn't just become bishop, he's a father, he's a priest, and he becomes a bishop. And that means that, yes, he's got a bigger family, but he doesn't lose his family. It's not as if he becomes an administrator. It's been very interesting talking to the canceled priests here and listening to all the talks by the various canon lawyers and things like that, talking about this real disconnect that there is between bishops and their diocese, bishops and the faithful, and how the episcopacy for the longest time has become, basically a management firm. It's an administration. It's, in many cases, a grooming operation, sadly, with some of the seminaries. And, any man who is courageous, who is forthright, who is orthodox, who is faithful, who is charismatic, who is strong and moral is never going to become a bishop, except for a select few that somehow make it through the cracks. And Bishop Strickland is one of those men who has made it through the cracks. Talking to Jesse Romero, he was telling a story about Bishop Strickland, talking to John Henry Weston, telling a story. Bishop Strickland's the kind of man where if he's on a radio show or something, he'll ask to be corrected live if he makes a mistake. That takes a lot of humility. Strickland, a few weeks ago, about a month and a half ago, he had said something where he said the SSPX was schismatic, and then the next day reversed his opinion after looking into the work of Bishop Schneider. That's not something bishops in our day do. They don't exercise humility in the public forum. Bishop Strickland really is America's bishop in so many ways. He is the last sort of strong bastion of Catholic orthodoxy in the episcopacy in America. And I know Bishop Barron does a lot of orthodox things. I get that. But you're never going to have Bishop Barron doing what Bishop Strickland did. Bishop Barron, he still plays the game. Bishop Strickland doesn't play games. He just wants to save souls. So I'm asking all Catholics, whether you're traditional or not, here is a man who is a defender of Catholic orthodoxy. He himself has expressed his personal love for the traditional Latin Mass that he only started saying in 2020. I believe he's in his 60s at that point, but he had the humility to learn that and perform that ritual, celebrate that Mass. He's a defender of Orthodox Catholicism. He's a supporter and defender of traditional Catholicism in his diocese. He's a friend even of the SSPX, which is very rare for many bishops. He needs your prayers. So please pray for Bishop Strickland. And also, be prepared for Bishop Strickland's cancellation. Be prepared that Bishop Strickland will be removed from ministry. And if you haven't woken up yet, if you haven't learned yet that the crisis in the church is so deep that a bishop who processes with relics against a public act of blasphemy, sacrilege, mockery of religious nuns, the Blessed Mother, the cross. I mean, look at what these drag queen fake nuns have done to offend God. If the fact that this man is going to very likely be disciplined for this doesn't wake you up, then I really don't know what will. We're in a deep crisis in the church, and it's more profound than I think a lot of people understand. And it means, just like during the Arian crisis, when the vast majority of the episcopacy had embraced the heresy of Arianism, or at least was tolerating it, if not actively supporting it, there was a time when Catholics followed a bishop out into the wilderness. His name was St. Athanasius. And he preached the famous sermon. There's a line from it: "They have the buildings, but we have the faith." Catholics need to stop trying to do the tit-for-tat canon law mumbo-jumbo about the SSPX or whatever. And they have to recognize that they are now in a position where we are in a battle between the church and the anti-church, which is something that not just Vigano and those men have talked about, but Fulton Sheen many years ago, Bishop Sheen. And that battle is waging right in front of us. And this visitation of Strickland, if it goes as bad as I sadly expect it will, the time for action has long since passed. So please pray for the bishop. Pray for him to have courage to accept his fate, whatever it is. Pray that the hearts of the apostolic visitators are softened. And pray that it blows over, but if it doesn't, pray that the good bishop has guidance, wisdom, and that he's able to withstand the storm. And that his example will inspire Catholics to demand what is right and just from the hierarchy of the church, rather than just putting up with the status quo, which is the lavender mafia, which seeks to destroy Catholic tradition. God bless you, Bishop Strickland.